Hello, Outlaws. Have you ever looked at your resume and thought, I can do all this, but I just don't want to anymore? What if the skills you're great at are the very ones that are making you unhappy? You probably need to find those skills that are transferable, the ones that can help you make a shift, whether that be to a new profession or just a sideways move within the same one.
In episode 11, Kate shared a piece of advice that I'd given her, something which is now seared on her brain. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And in this episode, we're going to pick up that thread with someone who knows exactly what it feels like to be great, but at the wrong job.
Career counsellor and coach Anna Black spent 7 years stuck in that in-between space. On paper, she was a successful geophysicist, but in reality, work felt pointless, but she didn't know what else she could do. Today, she helps people figure out what they actually want to do, not just what they're good at. Anna, welcome to Outlaws podcast. We just wanted to start with your career path. If you could talk us through how you got from where you were to where you are.
Thanks so much for having me. I started out as a geophysicist and I did that for around 10 years. And then I made a couple of kind of little shifts along the way. So, realised relatively early on that geophysics wasn't really for me long term. And I moved into strategic planning, kind of business analyst type roles, which I did enjoy a lot more than the geophysics. So I found the work interesting on a surface level, and there were great benefits. I got to travel a lot, but there was always there was always something missing in terms of my real deep interest or passion for the work that I was doing.
So Anna, what was it that led you to study geophysics in the first place?
Yeah, good question. So it wasn't interest. Like I do have an interest in, the natural environment, the earth. I loved the sort of physical geography through school. I found it all very fascinating. But geophysics in industry is about finding new mineral deposits, which is very different to kind of what got me interested early on.
Right. Oh, I can see an immediate parallel to law there as well, right? Because studying law is quite different from the actual practice of law.
Also quite different from the TV shows that people think law is going to be like.
Sadly.
But I don't think if I could go back, I don't necessarily think I would change anything. I don't actually have any regrets. That career, I got to travel to all manner of amazing places, to Canada and Mexico and South Africa, and went underground in a diamond mine, and all these amazing experiences. So there was so much good about it, and great people. I still have really close friends that I made sort of in those earlier days through my career. So looking back, I don't think I would actually change it. I think it's okay to maybe not get everything right first time, and for your needs and priorities and interests to change over time and to sort of follow them. It's a kind of an evolution.
I think the odds of getting it right first time are remarkably small, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so, because you're making decisions when you're 17, 18, what you're going to study, the path that you're going on, and there's all these various influences as well. There's, your own thoughts about, what you might want to do, but then you've got parents and teachers and society and everybody's opinions about, what makes a good career or not. And some of them, some of those things have valuable and valid arguments, and some don't. And so I think it's, the best way of looking at it is as, an evolution, try something, modify as you go. Most people will make changes through their career, and that's all good.
Yes, right. And I think that's a really important point too, that even if you do happen to enjoy what you do straight up, there's nothing to say that you're going to maintain that interest over the course of a career, and perhaps nor should you either. Changing and doing different things is a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. And, I often talk about the hierarchy of needs, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's a really good way of thinking about how we develop and change over time. You know, what you're looking for in your career.
So you said that you tried a few different things after you were a geophysicist. They obviously didn't feel quite right either. Can you tell us a little bit more about when it was that you thought, actually, I need to change out of this entirely?
Yeah, I think the gap for me was around that meaning piece. So checked off a lot of the other boxes in terms of enjoying the work and a level of interest in environment and all these other areas through the mining career. And I shifted closer and was ticking more boxes with every move that I made. And the strategic planning was good. I actually genuinely enjoyed that work, but working in mining for me wasn't meaningful. And so there was this, I got to that point where I was really craving that kind of deeper satisfaction and fulfillment. So, I actually went to a career counsellor and I got help with this. And it was interesting because I'd had my first son. I had got interested in psychology. I'd actually started studying psychology at UWA, going down there in an evening and doing a first year unit because I was really fascinated and I wanted to test that out. And then when I went back to work, I went back part-time, tried to continue the study, and that didn't work. I got to the point where I had to make a choice. Was I going to make this change? Was I going to pursue this sort of psychology world or, continue in mining? What was it going to be? And I got interested in career counselling. It was sort of on my radar as a possibility and something that I thought I might enjoy doing because we'd had a consultant come in when I was at BHP to look at people's career paths and career development and map them. And I was like, oh, that sounds really fascinating. So it kind of gave me an inkling that, perhaps this is something that I might want to do myself.
I was going through my own kind of sort of questioning early in the year, thinking like, oh, what should I do? I don't know. I tried practice again. I was missing higher ed, which is where I'm sort of gone back into, but I wasn't quite sure. I was really stuck, and I saw Shayla for some career coaching, which was immensely helpful. And I just think getting those concerns out, sort of airing them out with a third party, is just so very helpful. But when people come to see you, where are they stuck? So what's draining them particularly? Is it a range of things? Is there something you see that is consistent with the clients? Or
the common challenge is that they know they want to make a change, but they don't know how to figure out what it is. They can't see what the best path forward is for them, what they should choose. And when you're mid-career, most of my clients are in their 40s and into their 50s. It's a big thing. Like it's a big risk to, or it feels like a big risk to make a change. Now there are obviously various things you can do and different ways you can go about it to de-risk it, and I see that's kind of part of what I do is de-risking the change. But it's a tough thing to do, to make a decision and go in a different direction. So they need certainty.
Stakes get higher, I guess, don't they? The older you get and the more entrenched you are in a particular path, it does feel like a bigger thing to step out of it.
Definitely, and for a range of different reasons. There's the status and identity, and this is who I am, and I'm now very senior and well regarded, and all of that. Can be a bit of ego as well, and identity around it. There's the financial side. The more senior you get, the more you earn. That's tough to give up. Often my clients have kids through those expensive years, through 40s and 50s, and have big commitments and responsibilities. And I work with a lot of men as well as women. So there's a range of reasons, why that is. Yeah. In terms of, I guess, what they're finding challenging in their current work, it's a range of different things. It can fall into any of those areas that I talked about before. It could be that they were previously doing technical work and they've moved into a management role and the job is completely different and it's not for them. Like it's not, doesn't play to their strengths or the things that they enjoy, and they're hating that. So that the task could have changed. It could be that they're not interested in that field anymore, or perhaps never were. There could be that sort of lack of meaning, motivation. It could be the environment. I work with people who are in FIFO roles and very keen to get out and change that for lifestyle and family reasons. So there's a whole range of reasons. And in fact, it's usually multiple reasons, because often we can put up with one thing being out of alignment. But, when there's two or three and things are, the work is a really poor fit in a number of areas, that's when it can be, really, really challenging and it's kind of unsustainable.
Yep.
You talked a little bit about some of the reasons why people find it difficult and they're just really feeling stuck. But I'm really interested in knowing what else your clients might experience in that space as well, because a lot of our listeners are also in this space. I think we also have a lot of listeners which are maybe also a little bit earlier in their career, but it might be feeling slightly wrong. So they might just be trying to figure out ways that they can do little shifts. But I think it would be really useful just to talk about what sort of emotions and feelings you see.
So yes, they're definitely feeling stuck and confused. So it's like this, confusion, perhaps overwhelm. People are, researching, trying to figure this out on their own. They're going online and going down rabbit holes, scrolling endlessly through pages and pages of Seek jobs, trying to find the answer, like the thing that is going to fit. Doing online quizzes and all of that sort of thing. And also, my clients are very capable people. I mean, they've, pretty much all got degrees. They're smart. They're, professionals. They've been successful and extremely capable. They're confident that they can be successful. It's that they just don't know what they want to be successful in. Feeling isolated and sort of like they're the only person going through this is really, really common, which is a shame because, it is a very common thing, but people don't talk about it.
Yeah, which I think is why we want to talk about it, right? Because everyone we talk to talks about it.
Yeah.
We're like, no, everyone feels like that.
And it might even be that it's not the career itself, it's just the particular place you're doing that job in, but it's actually about getting the tools and talking about it, knowing how to map through it and what sort of questions you need to be asking yourself. Yeah, because it might well be that it's not the career, it just might be the location or the particular work or whatever it is, but you don't know that unless you actually feel confident enough to explore it and talk about it. Because like you say, I think we've all done that, haven't we? We're trying to find out information. You don't know where to go and you end up sort of on something that's not even entirely related, or maybe that's just me. I'm like, the history of Mesopotamia. Oh, fascinating. That's not what I started looking for. Just giving, what are the steps? What do? You identify a problem that you're not happy. What's step one?
So understanding what your priorities are. I have some who make a dramatic change and start all over again. Majority make a sort of, a shift in a different direction, but still leveraging all their experience. A few actually go through the process and they discover that there's a lot of good in what they do, and it does tick a lot of the boxes. There's just one thing out of whack. And, for example, a manager who is, blocking their ability to get stuff done, or the environment, etc. So relatively easy to fix. You just fix that one thing and you're all good. And there's this really great, quote that I love, and I don't know who to attribute it to. Apologies, but we
love a quote. We love a quote.
I should search up. The contents of a jar can't see what's on the label. So would you like that one?
We like all quotes.
I've got more.
Amazing. That's amazing, right? No.
And so what a lot of people struggle with is that they can't put their finger on what it is that is not working. And it's it's not rocket science. It's one of the four things. That there are only so many things that can be out of alignment. But
so it's that quote is like, whoa. So that's really about perspective then. Is that really what that quote's getting at? That actually when you're in it, you can't necessarily really see what all these rocks are in the jar.
it's hard to be objective about yourself.
Yeah.
So it's hard to see for yourself what the things that are going to make a career satisfying to you. It's hard to see what those are for yourself. We often, we get really good at, what we do, whatever it is that we do every day, the skills that we have. We don't necessarily value that.
Right.
And interestingly enough, lawyers are a really good example of this. Like, lawyers generally don't see the value in their skills to the degree that people outside of law will. Lawyers are very highly valued and don't necessarily recognize that.
Interesting. Is that because it's just innate? They just do it and they don't think of it? Or is it because there's a crushing level of low self-esteem in the legal profession?
Well, I'm not qualified to judge that, but I think
The latter for sure.
Maybe there is an element. Lawyers are interesting. I love them. There is an element of the circles you move in. So lawyers study with lawyers, they go work with lawyers. So you're kind of in this bubble. So you don't value it because everybody's got this knowledge, this skill, and yet outside of law, people without a law background and without law qualifications are often terrified of anything legal. And so legal skills are very highly valued outside of law, which most lawyers don't see. It's an example of this perspective. So lawyers can't see
the label on their job,
what they have to offer, their value, their strengths.
Yeah.
What makes them unique and valuable and different, their value in the market.
Right.
They can't see themselves objectively. And it's the same for most people.
Yeah.
So there's huge value in getting this kind of external perspective and mapping this out in a very kind of explicit way to say, these are the things not only that you can do, the things that you enjoy and what you're interested in, passionate about, what's important to you, and packaging that up. So getting the clarity and understanding around that. And then it brings a huge confidence boost comes with that.
Yeah, right.
A lot of my clients, when they know who they are, what they want, what they've got to offer, and they can see this kind of package that they can take out into the market, it's hugely valuable.
So where would someone start to trying to think outside the jar that you're in, because you can't see the label? I am not going to let that go, because that's such a great perspective what you've shared there. I love that. But what should they do then once they go, I've got them, how do I find them? Because reminds me of that quote about the fish, when one fish says to the other, oh, the water's cold today, and the other fish says, what's water? Because you're in it all the time, you don't notice it.
Great. Love that. I haven't heard that before.
Oh, well, we've swapped one good one each then today.
Brilliant.
I'm fixated on the jar, but I'll let it go. But yeah, so how would someone go about doing that? What do they do?
I think it's important to come back to, focusing on what you enjoy. I think a lot of people I talk to say, I've got this experience, I've got this skill set. What can I do with it? What are my options? Give me the menu of things that I can move into. And that's not the best way of going about it. So I would always come back to, what do you enjoy? What skills do you enjoy using? What tasks do you enjoy doing? And then moving from there, because the things that you enjoy are probably things that you've been doing. You get drawn to things that you enjoy, and therefore you get good at them, and that there's a link there. But always keeping that focus on what you enjoy, not what you're good at. There's another little graphic I shared on LinkedIn recently, which was around climbing the career ladder. If you're climbing a ladder, make sure your ladder's against the right wall, because we can get so focused on this is what I'm good at and get kind of hooked into doing the thing and on the track to success. That the way to avoid that is to think about, well, what do I enjoy doing? And then, if there are skills that you don't have, well, then go get them. You build skills. Anything is learnable, but you probably find that the things that you most enjoy, you probably have a good dose of competence in those skills already.
Yeah.
But always come back to, what do I enjoy? Imagine think about the work that you've done that you've enjoyed the most, that you've found the most satisfying. What were you doing? What makes you lose track of time.
I'm finding what you're saying so interesting because I think that whole notion of enjoyment as the first concept is so revolutionary, because when Shayla said that to me, it's like, well, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you should do it. I was like, wait, what? That blew my tiny little mind, because I was like, oh, no, I thought that's what you looked at and then you followed that. Now, I take your point too, because I think you're right. If you enjoy something, you're more likely to be good at it. But it's the enjoyment is the key starting point, not good at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you're far more likely to get trapped and drawn towards, in the world we live in, drawn towards things that you are good at but you don't enjoy. That's the trap.
Right.
So you have to compensate for that. You have to actively avoid the things that you don't enjoy, because that's what will make you miserable. And they're called burnout skills for a reason. You get trapped, you keep doing it. You get rewarded for doing it. You get told how amazing you are at doing this thing. You're the go-to person for doing this thing, right? I had them, one of mine was kind of a project management type work that I used to do, or risk management, and I was the go-to person, because I would do it and I would do it well. And, and I'm sure there's a lot of, lawyers who are these high achievers and certain personality types, and that's the trap that you need to get out of. And the way to do that is thinking about just what you enjoy and then building up your skills around that. But you probably find you've already got a lot of those skills that you enjoy already. But it's light bulb moment for a lot of people. It's so simple.
And is that the first time they're hearing it sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's, people are on a track. They get on a track and they get into their 40s and they've never actually thought about whether they enjoy what they're doing or not. They know they're unhappy, the people that I talk to, obviously, but they've never actually sat down and consciously thought about, well, what do I enjoy? They spend their time trying to find the job that, looking on Seek, trying to find the job that will make them happy, but not asking the questions that, what are the components? What are the ingredients?
One of the things that I try and encourage my clients to do is to think about a day and to map the activities that they do in that day, and to think about which things give them energy and which things take away their energy. And I think that's so true what you said. I can pump out a policy in 2 seconds flat, and I don't like it. I don't like it. People, of course, ask me to do it because I can do it quite quickly, but it gives me absolutely no energy whatsoever. Other things, arguably, that I'm not very good at, like making podcasts or editing podcasts, I take much longer to do, but I enjoy doing much more. And it was really only pretty recent for me when I've started to think about, do I like doing that? Does that give me energy when I've done that thing, or does it really pull away my energy? And so I've found that a really good way of trying to identify some of those things that, I don't know if they're transferable skills, but for me, just, well, I want to do more of that thing and less of that other thing. I think with the transferable skills, we had an author called Solari Gentle on the podcast, and she actually explained that she felt, so there's a lot of authors who plot out their books before they write them, and then some do no plotting whatsoever. And I think depending on which camp you sit in there, one can never understand the other. But what Solari said was that she felt like some of the work that she had done as a lawyer was so useful to what she now does as an author, because she just gets stuck into it. So I guess that sometimes the skills, the transferable skills that you have, they're so hard to identify. They're not necessarily what you'd think. How do you help people to get to the transferable skills that are actually a bit more abstract, maybe, that are things that they wouldn't have even thought of?
Sure. So there are two different ways that I help people identify the skills that they enjoy and they want to focus on and do more of. One is that assessment I mentioned, the Nodal Skills Sort, because tools like that can be really useful because it prompts you to think about these things that otherwise you might miss or not even think about. The other way is very similar to what you were describing just now, thinking about kind of what's your ideal day, what gives you energy. Actually, I mentioned the question just put before, thinking about over your career, what have you enjoyed the most? so they can pinpoint those roles or projects that they've enjoyed and gone, yeah, actually that was satisfying. Right, okay, well, what were you doing? Using those two, you can generally come up with the answer to what are the tasks you most enjoy, the skills you most enjoy using. But I think it's then probably really useful for your listeners to then make the link to, well, how do you then map that to what to do next? Because it's all very well to say, oh, I'd love to just write all day, but what do you do with that? Like, how can you actually make that a reality? But the way to then map that is to look at the two key components of any work, whether it be job, self-employment, and I take a very holistic view and look at all the different options. The key components of any role is the tasks, what are you actually doing, and the field, what's the context, the subject matter, the content of what you're doing. And so if you can identify the skills that you most want to do and the field that you want to do that in, then you use those, combine those, and then kind of create options from that. Brainstorm, well, what are all the different places in the world of work where these things overlap, where you can combine these things. And there's always lots of options. And another kind of component of what I help people with is looking at, how you want to work. Do you want the traditional 9 to 5 full-time job, or do you want to explore contract work, self-employment, gig work, board roles? And then also, what about kind of voluntary and those hobbies even, or things outside of work? Because sometimes it's, the best solution is to tick all the boxes with a combination of more than one thing. And I think that can be a real light bulb moment for people as well. But, a lot of people, haven't even considered the idea of, not doing the 9 to 5 traditional full-time role. But yeah, I've got a great example of a client I work with in Queensland. She was working for a local business and she wasn't enjoying the work, and she came up with 3 key ingredients or drivers for her career. She wanted flexibility so she could work from anywhere. She was from Uruguay, so her family were back there. She wanted to be able to work from anywhere so she could travel more and spend more time with her family. She wanted connection. She was missing connection, and she was really interested in property investment. And so we used those key ingredients to look at what her options were. And she approached a company, was offered a job, and she's doing exactly that. She's been promoted. She's now head of sales and marketing for this property investment company. And they even sponsored her qualifications and everything because she hadn't worked in that field before. So she's this fabulous success story of being able to say, right, this is my ideal. Imagine your ideal work. Where could you do that? Who's in that world? Who's doing that kind of thing? Going and talking to them, and her passion got her over the line and got her the job offer. So
it's very inspiring. It's so great, I think, when people have been brave enough to go, no, that's the thing I want to do, and then go out and make it happen. And when you hear stories that it has happened, I think that's encouraging for people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, sharing, people love to hear the stories, and I think it gives, it just shows what's possible. Because often you get stuck in this, idea that the options are limited, or it's not possible, or you can't see a way of ever making it work and being able to get what you need or want to be able to kind of get out of that situation. And the more examples people see, the better. Yeah, there's a lot of great stories out there.
So
Kate,
Anna,
we can book in the Italian and French Outlaws podcast retreat business then. Okay.
Ooh.
Yes. Perfetto. See, va bene. So Anna, for someone who's listening right now and thinking, I know I need to change, I don't know what I want, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think that the very first thing is to know that it's possible to work it out. I think, the biggest challenge for a lot of people is that they know they want to make a change, but they don't know how to go about it. They don't know where to start. And the only reason they're stuck is because they don't know the steps. So that's the key thing, is that there's a way to work it out.
Yeah, that's so encouraging, because I think people feeling stuck, just knowing that there is something you can do, that you don't have to stay in this kind of churn forever. That's it's so great to hear. It's so encouraging, I think.
Yeah, and there's always, and I'm a very pragmatic person. I don't ever promise to people that, they'll get their sort of perfect, utopia of a job. But what I can guarantee is that if you work through the process, you will find the best solution.
Yeah. But it all starts with thinking about what is it you actually want.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you enjoy? What are you interested in? What motivates you?
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That's been really useful and helpful, and we do just love a good quote. So that's going to, go in our base book
I'm
of
going to be
good
using
quotes.
that one.
It's been a pleasure having a chat with you. I love to talk about this. I have kind of found my sweet spot. So always chat.
So important. Thank you so much. The conversation today, I think, has just been so valuable. And I think we'll just even people knowing of those two things, right? There's a way out of this. And actually it starts with identifying what it is you want, what you like to do. That's very freeing, I think. Thank you, Anna, so much for your time.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Outlaws, once again for tuning in, and we hope you found that valuable. I think what Anna has to say was, Shayla, I found it incredibly useful. Those two key points: start with what you love or like to do. That's like, what? No one's heard
So
that
great.
Before. Yeah, and then also too, that there's a way out of it. It's normal. Lots of people are feeling it. There is a pathway, even though it doesn't feel like it at the moment. So I just found what Anna had to say so incredibly inspiring and optimistic, right? Was really important.
Yeah, and I think if you need permission to start with what you want, that was it, right? Start with what you want. That's the answer. It's okay to start with what you want. That's not selfish. That's not self-indulgent. It's not any of those things. So just start with what you want, and then everything else will flow from that. I think that's just so great to know. So thanks so much for tuning in today, everyone. As usual, if you've liked the episode, please give us a rating, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, or send us an email. We actually love getting emails if you think it's been good, or if you've got ideas for other episodes. We'd love to hear from you whenever you like. Join us in the Facebook group too. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great week. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Shayla. See you soon. See you, everyone. Bye.